Hi, QuilTube. This is Colleen with Quilting from Quilting with the Sisterlies, already stuttering, falling over my words. Anna has convinced Cheryl and I to do a quilt tube, sort of like the floss tube, but with quilting inspired inspirations. And I thought I would do a quilt parade or trunk show of the quilts that I have made in the past. I think I have like 17 of them hanging up here. These are the larger quilts. So anyway, the first one is The Raven by Blackbird Designs. And I think this was inspired by Edgar Allan Poe poems or quotes. And it's by Barbara and Alma. And it finishes, it's applique, and then I machine applique. My background is a Blackbird fabric, one of their newer lines, Blackbird Designs fabric, and it finishes at 68 by 68. I didn't do exactly by the pattern, but I did sashing. I was trying to get stars in there, but they look more like X's. But anyway, that is the first one. And now we'll pause and I will hang up the second one, hopefully. Okay, pause. Okay, the second quilt I did is actually, I think probably the second or third quilt I even made. And this one was, oh, whoops, it's getting, there you go. It's an Abraham Lincoln quilt. I found some fabric on Etsy of Abraham Lincoln. And then this was put together, how do you say that, diagonally? And just using scraps, Civil War reproduction scraps. There's no real design to this. I made it up, so I can't give you any pattern. And it just kind of hangs in my quilt room because everybody knows Abraham Lincoln is my fave. I even named my dog after him. So that is the second quilt. Okay, pause, stop. Okay, the third quilt I made is the Lincoln Museum quilt, and this is by Barbara Brockman and Deb Roden. And I use Civil War reproduction fabrics. It's made using two basic quilt blocks. One is the 16 patch and the other is a star block. And then you just alternate them. It finishes at 84 by 96. And this one, I was just reading where this one is. This is in Lincoln's boyhood home. This quilt is a reproduction of the quilt that's in Lincoln's Colleen. I just read it. It's in his boyhood home. And so that's where this, here we go. Okay, so the original quilt was installed on the bed in the museum's full-size reproduction of Abraham Lincoln's boyhood home on February 8th, 2008, just before his 199th birthday. And it seems like a lot of my quilts are stars related. I think I was trying to win the star points. I didn't know that they weren't supposed to touch or go under the seam. And then when I learned that they were supposed to stand on their own, I got a hold of Pat Sloan, and Pat Sloan is the one that taught me how to do the star block without losing my points. So I truly appreciate that. All right, let's get to the next one. This is the fourth quilt. Hopefully you can see it. It is a pattern called Sheep Happens. It's by South Wind Designs. I made this all out of flannel and wool, and it finishes at 42 by 46. And I put the one black sheep in for me, because in my family, I was the middle child. But I love this one. This one hangs in my front room on my quilt rack. And it looks like I should have ironed it. But let's get to the next quilt. The next quilt that I have is just a basic Irish chain quilt. And in the areas where it's empty, I machine embroidered wreaths in them. So this is another one of my quilts. No pattern other than following a basic Irish chain pattern. And that's it. And again, more the Civil War type fabrics. It's a lot of work to take these down and hang them back up. And so I lose my air, and I apologize if you can hear all the heavy breathing. It's not because my quilts are heavy breathing material. It's just my lung. This quilt I made to try to get some masculine influence in my quilting. I don't have a pattern for this. I was trying for a 3D effect. And it seems like I saw something on Etsy. And then I just threw it on the floor and laid it out and tried to get that effect. And I sort of did. It's red, grays, and blacks and creams. And it's like a throw quilt. So it'll fit on a queen size bed, but not the sides. The sides are just, not hanging. Okay, the next one is a Lori Holt quilt. And it's from the Prim and Proper book. And this is not an applique quilt. I love her applique quilts too, though. The most requested quilt, applique quilt, designed by Lori, is chicken salad, at least for whoops, what happened to the, at least here. I mean, I've had several people order the chicken salad quilts for me. But anyway, this is done with the Prim, which I think it's the Prim and Proper. It's Riley Blake Designs, fabric designed by Lori Holt. And I got the kit and the fabric from that quarter shop. And it's a nice size quilt. It doesn't tell on here what the dimensions are, but I know it fits on my queen size bed without hanging over. So this is one of my favorite quilts as well. I forgot to mention on the Prim and Proper quilt, in the binding, I added bric rack. Lori adds a lot of cute ideas, bric rack buttons. But anyway, this one is called Bubblegum Kisses Quilt. It finished at 23.5 by 27.5. It is by Fat Quarter Shop. It was a Sew Sampler exclusive, but I adapted it to make it a full-size quilt. And it's basically just the plus block or the X block. And then I just made a bunch of them and made it bigger. And so there is that one. Okay, this one is, I have not quilted it yet. I have the backing, but I need to get some batting and quilt it yet. This is a Stars and Stripes quilt featuring the Patriots fabric line by Robert Kaufman. It was designed by Elise Lee, and I used all the called for fabrics. And the finished quilt measures at 72 by 82. And I really like this. You might start seeing a pattern because I like star blocks, and blame Pat Sloan for that because my points point. Anyway. And this quilt was a really fun quilt to make. It is by Shabby Fabrics. It's the spinning rail fence quilt. And it finishes at 64 by 77 and a half using the All Stars, Tula's All Star collection. So that one was a fun one and bright, considering, you know, I have issues with color apparently when I'm doing my quilts. Unless someone requests color, I tend to go to the primitive look in my colors. Okay, this one hangs in my hallway on a quilt rack. It's just the basic Ohio star block that I sashed all the way around it and then put in a border, an inner border and an outer border. And I came out with this. I tend to, when I'm learning something, I'll just make a whole bunch of those blocks and then make a quilt out of them. Just the same old. But I do like the colors on this. It's my primish colors. And I think it came out pretty darn good. So that is that one. So this one was my attempt at a fan quilt, kind of like a stack and whack, but I just used the Dresden ruler, made them into a fan shape. I used batiks and a plain white cotton background, probably a Riley Blake background. And I just came up with this. So there's that one. My cousin tatted me some pieces that I wanted to put up here above the black things on the fans. And I wanted to put some buttons on there too. So it's not quite done. It's in my stack. Okay, this one is just a looky quote. I was practicing making flying geese, the pinwheel block, and then just plain blocks. Put a border around it and called it a quilt. So that is what that one is. Okay, so this one is just another attempt to do a 3D quilt using more masculine colors. And I used purples and a couple shades of blue. And looks like some gray. I do remember it was during the eclipse that I made this. I think it was a full eclipse. Oh, makes me breathless. We only have 1, 2, 3 more quilts, guys. 3 more. This one is my Ode to Washington State baby quilt. I don't remember the fabric line, but there's raindrops, rubber boots, and umbrellas. We don't use rubber boots or umbrellas in Washington State, but this was, I think I was trying to do a pinwheel. And now I'm looking at it. I don't know why I put this one up for y'all to see. I think I did this all ass backwards, whatever that's called. Because I do see some pinwheels like in between there, but I don't know what the side and the border. I don't. Just look at the pinwheel parts, guys. 2 more quilts. 2 more quilts. I was gonna slide in here like Tom, whoever was in that movie Breathless, or maybe it was, I don't remember. Remember the guy who slid into the front room, but in his underwear? I would not have been in my underwear, but the Breathless song came to mind. So this is just half square triangles, and I was making those blocks, and so I made a quilt of complete half square triangles. Remember, I said, I'll do a block until eternity and make it into a quilt. And we have one more quilt to hang. And then we're done with the big quilts. I'll do another one of the smaller things in the applique projects I've been doing or I've completed. Okay, remember when I came in here saying that I wanted to slide in here like the movie Breathless? Well, maybe not, because Breathless was a 1960 French New Wave crime drama written and directed by Jean-Luc Godard. It stars Jean-Paul Belmondo as a wandering criminal named Mikkel and Gene Seberg as his American girlfriend, Patricia. So, yeah, Breathless is a song by Jerry Lee Lewis. That's all I know. My last quilt is a bunch of bear claws. Why is that funny? Just the bear claw or bear paw block, which my son finds amusing, and I made it into a quilt using sashing and cornerstones. And that's the end of the quilt parade. And I'm exhausted. Thank you guys all for joining in and listening to me. And I hope you enjoyed it. I have a lot more that I've made. I've made the chicken salad quilt, the Granny's garden quilt, a heart quilt, a lot of Bigfoot quilts. But the most quilt that has been requested in my Etsy shop is the chicken salad quilt. And Lori may need to keep that line in Fat Quarter Shops or Riley Blake's lineup forever. Or I'm gonna have to get fancy and find light fabrics. Anyway, so at the end of this, remember I said at the beginning, put in the comments the quilt that has been most requested. I didn't show the quilt, but I talked about it. And 2 of you will win a $35 gift certificate from Fat Quarter Shop to make your own quilt. So everybody have a great day, and I'll chat with you all later. Bye.